Audio Jungle.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Abdurrahman Yahya. I'm a second year medical student. Today we are going to talk about the anatomy of the heart, and we are going to talk about layers, the location of the heart, the conductive system, and the structure of the heart. We're going to start with the location of the heart. The location of the heart has two locations depending on the ribs or the thoracic vertebra. So according to the ribs, we will begin from the third rib to the fifth rib, according to the ribs. While according to the thoracic vertebra, it's from T5 to T8. Ribs, the base of the heart, it's from the beginning of the large vessels. Here exactly, because here we have apex. We know that apex, it's the top. Okay, why the apex here? Because of the development, the rotation during development, it's actually the base of the heart, it's here. So it's supposed to be here, but during the development, it rotates. So it's actually rotates down. So that's why the heart, the apex of the heart, it's down, not up. So this is the location. The location of the heart, we can say just in short words. Just behind the sternum, slightly behind the sternum, slightly on the left. So the 2/3 of the heart, it's to the left. Okay, this is the location. What about the structure of the heart? The structure of the heart, it has composed of three layers. Okay, let's talk about the layers of the heart. So we have here, we have from inside to outside, endocardium, and we have myocardium, and we have the last thing, which is pericardium. So what about the layers? These layers that the heart composed of, beginning with the endocardium, the inner lining of the heart, the inner lining of the heart, it's inner, inside the heart. What we have inside here, we have valves. So here we have valves, and of course the chambers of the heart. So here we have the chambers and we have the valves. The chamber, we have 4 chambers. The heart is composed of 4 chambers. 2 atria and 2 ventricles. 2 atria and 2 ventricles. And let's put here for clearance that this is the right side and this is the left side of the heart. When you wanna recognize or realize whether this side is the right or the left, you just look at to someone. So when you look at someone, obviously the right side will be here. So when you look to the heart, you look to someone. Okay. So the endocardium, the inner lining of the heart, contains or composed of valves and chambers, and there is an inner structure inside of the heart. Okay. Let's talk about the myocardium. We will talk in specific details after that about the inner. The myocardium, myo means, when we talked about the endo mean in, that means inner. But what about the myocardium? Myo means muscle. So myocardium talks about the muscle of the heart, which composed of 3 layers. And we want to see the myocardium, the muscle of the heart, why we have a thinner layer or a thinner side or thicker side, and why. We want to know why. Here, the third one, the pericardium, and which is composed, it's the same, it's serous tissue that composed like peritoneum, pleura. It has visceral and it has parietal. Visceral that involve the myocardium, and the parietal that cover the layer of outside the heart. So let's talk a little bit about the endocardium. Endocardium, we said the inner, we have valves, right? We have two in the, from right atrium to the right ventricle, we have the tricuspid. Tricuspid. Tri means three. Cusp, it's like a bucket that prevents the regurgitation of the heart, of the blood from the heart. And we have the major one, the second major one, which is, we can say, bicuspid. To make it easy for you. So tri means three cusp. Bi means two, or di, Latin. So what about the chambers? Valves here, to complete the valves, we have two semilunar. Semilunar means lun, it's the moon. So it's half moon. Semi mean half. So half moon. One, here we have here, can say for clearance, we have here the pulmonary valve, and we have here the aortic. Here, and let's say here, this is the pulmonary. And what about here? It's aortic. The aortic valve. All these two valves, it's semilunar, called semilunar. Semilunar means half moon. So we have pulmo, and we have aorta. It depends on the vessel, the trunk. We have pulmo, that means it goes to the lungs. We have aorta, that means the vessel of aorta. And what we have here, so the tricuspid. The tricuspid, it's exactly between the right atrium and the right ventricle, exactly here. So, in short note, we would say it's right atrium. So, the right atrium, and here, the right ventricle. The same thing in the left side, we will say here, the left atrium, and here, the left ventricle. This is the valves. Between the right atrium and the right ventricles, we have the tricuspid valve. The tricuspid valve. Let's point exactly to the right atrium, which is exactly here. Do not be confused with that. It's here, the right atrium. And here we have the tricuspid valve. Tricuspid valve. And to the left side, we have the same, exactly, between the left atrium and the left ventricle, a valve. But it's not tri, it's bi. So that means we have two cusps. Two cusps, we say it's bicuspid. And actually it has another name. It has a mitral valve, and also we can just name the two valves, major valves, right atrioventricular valve or left atrioventricular valve. But this is long name, right? So you can just say tricuspid, tricusp, and bicuspid or mitral valve. Why mitral? Because they call it mitral because it's like the crown, the mitral of the crown. So we just say bicuspid valve. Bicuspid valve. So now we know about the valves inside the heart. What about that? And the chambers, of course. So let's talk about the myocardium. The myocardium, let's say here, it's quite thicker. Here, it's quite thicker than the left side, it's quite thicker than the right side. Why is that? While here it's, you can see it's thinner. Why? Because the right side, the right ventricle, it contains blood, just flew to the lungs. You just have here lungs. Let's say for example the left lung and here the right lung. No need for pressure, for huge pressure to pump to the lungs. But here when you talk to the left ventricle, it has a thicker muscle. Why? Because needs a lot of pressure to pump all the body, because from the left ventricle to the aorta to the whole body, to the upper, to the brain, head, and to the upper limb, to the trunk, to the lower extremity. So you can imagine why it's thicker here and why it's thinner in the right ventricle. So this is the layers, the myocardium. The last thing, the pericardium, it's actually, we can say, it has two layers. First one, we said it's visceral pericardium, and here we say it's a parietal. So the visceral, from visceral, it's like the organ that surround the organ itself. So mean visceral, it surround the muscle of the heart, the myocardium, while the parietal, it's cover the outside of the pericardium. So we can say just here, in short notes, and out. And I want to talk about a point from the out. The out, the parietal, it's covered by dense fibrous tissue. Dense fibrous tissue. So the dense fibrous tissue covers the heart from overfilling. It's protect the heart from overfilling, not to fill like we can say like explode, not explode exactly, but we can say that when there is a volume come to the left ventricle, exactly to the left ventricle, and all ventricle actually, but exactly to the left ventricle, not allow the heart from overfilling. So this reduces the function of the ventricles to pump. And what about from inside, which is the visceral, and outside the parietal, between them they have a serous fluid. Serous fluid. This fluid lubricate the heart. Lubricate makes the heart pumps as he likes. Let's say for example, and give it the freedom as, yes, the heart it can pump freely by the serous fluid, and it's from 5 to 10 milliliter of this serous fluid. So this is about the layers. Let's talk about the inner structure inside. We have here, between the right atrium and the right ventricle, we have the tricuspid. So the tricuspid valve is attached by chordae tendineae. Chordae tendineae. It's like a threads. This we can say it's chordae tendineae. Chordae tendineae. Chordae tendineae. This we can say it holds the valves, and from while the ventricles pumps to not allow the blood to regurgitate to the right atrium and can cause hypertension. So the same in the left, or the left bicuspid and or the mitral valve. The same, we have chordae tendineae. So this thread, what kind of structure that hold these threads? It's not just threads outside here filling the air. No, of course. But we can say there is a muscle, special muscle, that hold these threads, called the papillary muscle. We called here, you can name it here. It's papillary muscle. This muscle holds the threads to close the valve itself, not allow the ventricles to regurgitate the blood to the atria. So we have here an inner structure here, exactly down the bottom. It's like grooves here. This structure called trabecular carnia. Trabecular carnia. It says that this structure gives a rise of the papillary muscle that hold the chordae tendineae and makes the papillary muscle, I will say it's linked, the chordae tendineae functions properly, and the trabecular carnia, which arise of the papillary muscle. So this is quite like short an explanation about the layers of the heart. Let's move to this is a muscle. The heart is a muscle, special muscle that pumps the blood through to the body, and the blood comes to the heart. So let's say, as long as it's a muscle, and this muscle pumps the blood that supply all tissue in our body. So as long as it's muscle, so this muscle also need for supply. So let's talk about the blood supply of the heart. The blood supply. The blood supply of the heart. Let's say it's quite simple. It's coronary arteries. When you say arteries, that means more than one coronary artery. So let's say here, the coronary artery, it has branches. It has right and left side. Right and left coronary artery. The right has two branches. Right marginal, and there is also, you can say, right acute marginal, because down the right side of the right ventricle, marginal, right marginal artery, and we can say it's posterior interventricular descending artery. Just in short notes, descending artery. These two branches of the right coronary artery. What about the left? The left we have first circumflex and the anterior, this posterior for the right and anterior for the left. Anterior interventricular descending artery. So this is quite simple. Let's say it's quite simple. Not gonna get deep into the branches and from where and exactly, but we can say just an information which is an important one about the origin of the coronary arteries. The coronary arteries, it has here the valve. So this valve, it consists of 3 semilunar valve. So before it branches, the coronary artery, we can say, if this is the valve, we cannot point here because it's like rabbit, but we can, if this is the valve, it branches directly from the valve itself. So from here, we can say, as long as it's side, so from here the right coronary artery, and from here the left coronary artery, from the coronary sinus. The coronary valve, it has let's say, three semilunar. It's a semilunar valve. So it has three like cusp, but semi. The left one and the right one, it has sinus. Sinus, it's like small hole. The small hole, it's branches of the coronary arteries. So as long as it's side, we can say it's here the right and here the left coronary artery. This is the blood supply of the heart. And so we're talking like about not everything, but quite most of them. We have talked about the heart. So, and blood goes, let's say it's right atrium, right ventricle, aorta, and the pulmonary trunk. So we want to know exactly the circulation and how many types of circulation do we have. Let's talk about that circulation. Circulation. We have three types of circulation. The major one, which is systemic, and the minor one, which is pulmonary, and the third, which is portal. But here in this video, we're not gonna get into the portal circulation. The most important thing is the systemic and pulmonary. So the systemic mean it's major. So the blood comes from inferior vena cava, the deoxygenated blood come from the lower extremity, from the lower trunk and lower extremity, through the inferior vena cava, goes to the right atrium. The same here we have the superior vena cava. The superior vena cava drains the deoxygenated blood from the head, neck, upper extremity, upper limb, and upper trunk, goes to the superior vena cava. So, the inferior vena cava, superior vena cava, also we have here, what also drains to the right atrium, we have here coronary sinus. Coronary sinus. So, coronary sinus, this is not obvious from the front of the heart. It's obvious from the posterior side of the heart, exactly behind the right atrium, slightly medial to the right atrium, slightly to the middle. And all these three, sinus and superior and inferior vena cava, all drains the deoxygenated blood to the right atrium. Okay, now we knew the deoxygenated blood come through which vessels and drains to the right atrium. So the blood goes from the right atrium, goes here, from the right atrium and goes down to the right ventricle. From the right atrium to the right ventricle, through which valve? As we said before, tricuspid valve. Tricuspid valve. So, from the right atrium to the right ventricle through tricuspid valve, then the blood flows by the contraction of the ventricle, goes to the pulmonary trunk. So, as long as it's pulmonary trunk, so there is a valve also, but it's pulmonary trunk, so it's pulmonary valve. As we said here, pulmonary valve. Here we can say pulmo valve. Okay? From the pulmonary valve, it goes here, pulmonary valve, to the pulmonary trunk. Then it separates to two pulmonary arteries. To two pulmonary arteries. So we have two pulmonary arteries, where the gas exchanged there from deoxygenated and will be oxygenated blood. So this is from the body to the heart. Let's move to the second part. From the lung to the heart and to the body. Why is 3? Because we need the blood to be oxygenated. So here we have from the lungs goes to the pulmonary veins. So we knew that the veins, the vessels that goes to the heart, and the arteries that leaves the heart. So veins, deoxygenated blood, and arteries, oxygenated blood. But why here we have pulmonary veins? The pulmonary veins, oxygenated blood. So we just say the vessel that leaves the heart, it's artery, and the vessel that comes to the heart, it's vein. So you can say the functional difference between the arteries and vein, it's the direction of blood flow. So from the lungs, the pulmon, to the heart by pulmonary veins. These pulmonary veins, look, these pulmonary veins. The left one, superior inferior, and the right one, superior inferior. So pulmonary veins, you can say pulmonary, you have to write, it's pulmonary. Veins. Okay? So pulmonary veins carries the oxygenated blood, the right and left, to the left atrium. Okay. Now the blood in the left atrium. The blood flows down, actually 80% by the gravity, of course, and 20% by the contraction. Here we have the blood that is in the left atrium. From the left atrium flows down to the left ventricle. Through which valve? We have valve here, major one. Bicuspid, the right tricuspid, the left bicuspid, mitral, left atrioventricular, just name it, whatever you want. So from the left atrium here to the left ventricle through bicuspid or mitral valve. Okay. Here the ventricle contracts and send the blood to the pulmonary artery through as long to the aortic artery. So as long as the aortic artery, so it's aortic valve. The pulmonary trunk or artery, it's pulmonary valve. The same exactly here. We can say the pulmonary, the aortic valve. Okay, as we mentioned here, the pulmonary, the aortic valve. So from the left ventricle to the aorta through the aortic valve, okay? From aortic valve goes to the ascending aorta, arch, descending, and goes up. The brachiocephalic trunk would separate to the right subclavian and right common carotid, and here we have the left common carotid and left subclavian artery. Okay, this is the systemic and pulmonary. Systemic means from the body to the heart, from the heart to the body. And pulmonary circulation means pulmon, so as long as I mentioned pulmon, that means lung. This is related to the lungs. So pulmon means from the heart to the lungs, from the lungs to the heart. Okay? And here, descending, thorax, abdominal. This is quite the circulation. the circulation, and the types of circulation. And the last thing we want to talk about is the conductive. Before I move to the conductive, we mentioned the blood supply. The vein drainage of the heart, it's quite simple. So from here, the drainage of the heart, we said the blood supply, coronary arteries, but the drainage, we're just gonna mention the veins that exist in the heart and drains the deoxygenated blood of the cardiac muscle. So we have the great cardiac. We're not gonna mention every vein because each vein, we're gonna say cardiac vein. So we're gonna mention the first name, the great cardiac vein, small and middle and posterior. These all four veins drains the deoxygenated blood to the coronary sinus, and from the coronary sinus along with the inferior vena cava, superior vena cava drains the deoxygenated blood to the right atrium, and the circulation goes on. This is the drainage of the heart. Let's talk to the last thing here. We have the conductive system of the heart. Conductive means signal just conduct from one area to another, mean conduction. So as long as we mention the conductive system, we have to mention the structure that related to this system. First of all, we have SA node, AV node, bundle of Hess, and the last thing, Purkinje's fiber. Node means it's composed of like a nerve tissue, nerve fibers, but exactly it's not a nerve tissues. So these structures, it's not nerve tissue, not true one. So this is a special cardiac cells that related to the conducting the signal from outside the heart to let the atria and ventricles contract and functioning properly. So first of all, you have the SA node, top of the surface, that related from the superior vena cava, and we have the AV node slightly above the interventricular septum and related to the cavity of the right atrium. And we have down here, we have bundle of Hess. Hess is a scientist who discovered this bundle that responsible for conducting the simulated signal from the contraction of the atria. Goes down here, the last thing we have Purkinje's fiber. Fiber that it's lined the bottom of the heart. So let's talk like in short words about the conductive and how it works. First of all, the impulses initiated from the SA node. The impulses initiated from the SA node. This impulse, when the SA node let the atria contracts, let the atria contracts. While the atria contracts, it simulates the AV node. So the AV node goes down by the bundle of Hess and down to the bottom of the heart, reach the Purkinje's fibers. The Purkinje's fiber, when the signal reach to this kind of fibers, let the ventricles contract. So we know now how the atria contracts and how the ventricle contracts. This is the conductive system, and actually quietly explained in short words. From SA node to the AV node, by a bundle of Hess to the Purkinje's fibers, and again. Here we have an example of EKG. B wave contraction of atria, and we have Q, R, S, T. QR is complex contraction of ventricles, and the last thing, T, is when the ventricles relax. So this is all about the cardiovascular system, exactly the anatomy of the heart. And don't forget, if you like the video, don't forget to put like and subscribe for the channel. Thank you for listening.